Welcome to Cybersecurity Awareness TV, episode number 462, recorded August 2nd, 2024. Join me, Professor Mac Jackson Jr., as we navigate through the digital landscape. Gear up for a thrilling ride through the cybersecurity tips, news, and gain expert knowledge, and become a cyber champion. Remember, folks, subscribe, like, and share this information with people that you know, your friends and family. Protect yourself from the fastest growing crimes of the 21st century. You can find out more by going to my website. That's at macjacksongr.com, or my company's website. That's at vandersoncybergroup.com. vandersoncybergroup.com. Today's episode, we're covering the warnings on social media disinformation in the White House elections, this race that's happening, folks. And of course, we'll discuss that and give you some tips and techniques of what you could do, folks. A lot to see here today on the show. Definitely stand by, folks. We'll be right back after these messages.
Tip.
Hi, folks. Welcome back to Cybersecurity Awareness TV. I'm your host, Mac Jackson Jr. Today's episode, folks, we're discussing warnings of social media misinformation in the White House race for president. Understanding social media misinformation and disinformation tactics. Let's discuss this. And I'm giving this to you, folks, as a professor in cybersecurity and a cybersecurity professional, folks. Let's look at some terms here. Misinformation. Misinformation refers to false or misleading information spread without malicious intent. This could also include rumors, misunderstandings, or incorrect interpretation of events of or data. People sharing misinformation often believe that it is accurate and are not trying to deceive others. However, disinformation, on the other hand, involves deliberate creation of dismantling of false information with the intent to deceive or manipulate public opinion. This can be part of a coordinated campaign to influence public and political outcomes, scorn discourse, and damage reputation. The role of AI in disinformation campaigns, folks, is the tool or the tactic that people are using to put forth misinformation and disinformation. Artificial intelligence has become a significant tool to spreading this information, essentially in the election periods that we're in right now. AI can enhance the reach of a significant amount of people because it is using technology to do that. Some of the tactics include deep fakes. AI-generated deepfakes creating realistic photos and videos that are fabricated. During election time, deepfake videos can be used to misrepresent political candidates, showing them as saying something that they did not say or do. This has influenced public opinion and voters' behaviors. Second, bots. Did you also know, folks, that bots in social media, it's reported that over 50% of the bots that you talk to in social media are not human? Yes, it's a study that's come out. You think that you're talking to a friend or a foe on social media, and it turns out that it's actually a social media bot. AI-powered bots can flood the social media platforms with false information, amplifying the spread and creation of illusions of beliefs and support. These bots can interact with human users, share fake information with other people that they know, generating large volumes of misleading context, making it difficult for users to distinguish between what is real and, as we say back in the day, what is Memorex. The third one we have, folks, in a tactic is targeted advertising. AI can be used to analyze vast amounts of data and creating highly trafficked and targeted advertising campaigns. Now, this is a good thing that AI is doing, right? Because it's used for advertising and it's trying to find people that would listen to a certain message, which is a good thing. However, there are people and companies that are using AI to create bad misinformation and disinformation, creating ads that are targeted to people and to exploit their fears, their biases, and their preferences within a specific voting segment. Disinformation campaigns can be used to target ads spreading false narratives or misleading information to vulnerable groups and influencing their voting decisions. These are some of the tactics used by AI. And some of the AI tools, well, some of them we've heard of. One of them is called ChatGPT. ChatGPT is a natural language processing model used to generate human-like text. Now it has surpassed just coming into text, and it's actually adding voice and video. Definitely, these are some things that we should be concerned with, and we will explore them here in this segment. Misinformation, disinformation, again, folks, there are warnings now by cybersecurity professionals like myself and law enforcement that want all American citizens to know, and worldwide as well, that there is a fight right now on what is truth and what is reality out there, and fake information is being sent. So with that said, the U.S. Supreme Court here in the U.S., along with federal agencies and the FBI, have mandated social media companies to flag posts containing misinformation and disinformation designed to influence voters. These mandates are aimed to safeguard the electoral process from internal and external threats. Cybersecurity experts, again, have identified foreign disinformation agents that have employed these tactics of disrupting the U.S. election nationwide, leveraging social media platforms and spreading false information swiftly and abroad. Folks, it's something we all should be prepared for, and we will talk about what you could do to look for these signs of misinformation and disinformation. But to add to my point of the story, I have something to share with you coming to us from CNN.
We should note to our viewers, we did get one decision from the Supreme Court, very important one, and Ellie, you can comment on that one as well. The Supreme Court said the White House and federal agencies, such as the FBI, may continue to urge social media platforms to take down content the government views as misinformation. This is viewed as a victory for the Biden administration, technical, if not an important one.
Yeah, so
what do you think?
Let me talk about this case that just came down, the first one today. So you may remember about a year or so ago, a group of Republican state attorneys general and a group of internet users, social media users, sued the Biden administration. They said, you are violating the First Amendment when you were, during COVID, primarily during COVID, but other issues too, when you were reaching out to social media companies saying, you need to take this post down, you need to moderate this post. And the question was, does that violate the First Amendment? The Supreme Court has now found, by a 6-3 ruling, not your usual, it's actually a cross-ideological majority, that the people who sued do not have standing, meaning state AGs and people who may use Twitter or Facebook, you don't have enough of an injury from this to even bring the lawsuit. So they didn't even reach the First Amendment question, the First Amendment merits. The Supreme Court just said 6-3, you're out of luck, this lawsuit's no good, go back to the drawing board.
Is that kind of taking a pass on deciding some of the more key constitutional issues there?
It's a procedural off-ramp, but it matters. I mean, standing matters in our courts. You can't just bring a lawsuit because something bothers you or offends you. You have to be able to show some tangible injury. And just to remind our viewers, we saw the mifepristone, the abortion medication decision last week, I think it was also based on a lack of standing. So Supreme Court likes to take these off-ramps if they're there, especially when they get into messy issues. But for now, there's no First Amendment violation in what the Biden administration did.
And Jamie, I mean, this is also interesting as it pertains to the upcoming, well, the election campaign that we're in the middle of right now. The decision means that the Department of Homeland Security may continue to flag posts to social media companies such as Facebook and X that it believes may be the work of foreign disinformation agents seeking to disrupt this year's presidential race.
So two things. One, I think a lot of parents are not so unhappy with this ruling, but these are the kinds of things it will be interesting to see in our debate tomorrow night, whether Trump or Biden bring this up. But no question, issues like this are going to have play out during the campaign, at the ballot box. Another decision we're waiting for is the Idaho abortion case, a reproductive rights case. I don't know that we're going to get that one today, but these are all things that have more significance during the campaign.
Yeah, Laura Coates, I mean, the Idaho abortion decision, when that comes down, could have massive implications across the country.
It could, and this is a case where the court is trying to grapple with the idea that there are certain states that have abortion bans. But in those particular states, are you still able as a medical provider to provide an emergency abortion? This is going to be the crux of the issue. And whether trying to balance this, there's a whole lot of political implications of this very notion. You're talking about state level regulations compared to the overturning of Roe v. Wade and the Dobbs decision. We're at the 2-year anniversary since just Monday. You have a presidential debate that is undoubtedly going to talk about reproductive rights more broadly. And this idea of what this tension would be between the medical community's obligations and what the statute is requiring you to do highlights a big tension of the Supreme Court. Do they want to be wading into otherwise normally political matters? This is becoming increasingly so. It's not just a matter of rights at this point in time. They're being viewed through the lens of politics. But this will be a very consequential decision. And mind you, this is now the second case they'd be deciding since overturning Roe v. Wade in this very term. Their first one was involving the first drug in a 2-drug regimen, mifepristone, for medication abortions, a widely used drug for that purpose. And so this tells you a lot about the decisions that they have made in the past that was not fulsome and comprehensive to anticipate and resolve these very matters.
Yeah, the Dobbs decision, I mean, had huge, repercussions across the country in ways that maybe even the Supreme Court justices did not imagine. Jamie Gangel and Ellie Honig. I mean, we're seeing that now.
Yeah, and what's really at stake with the abortion issue? I mean, we're talking about emergency room care. At what level do doctors have to provide that care? The federal regulations say if the mother's life is in danger or if it's necessary to stabilize the mother's health condition. Idaho and other states say only if the mother's life is in danger. There's a huge, I mean, it's literally a life or death difference there.
Yeah,
It's
go ahead.
not only life or death, but think about some complications that are separated. There could be a complication where a mother could not get, a family could not have another child. There are so many other serious medical complications that this cuts off because it's only if the mother's life is in danger.
And what's such an important point she raises on the politics, and the debate will undoubtedly raise this point, the conversation around reproductive rights and the conversation around abortion access has shifted away from the stereotypical notions of who people want to create a narrative of who's seeking abortions, and then the idea of those who are still wanting to have children and are desperate to do so, but are unable in this particular pregnancy. That has shifted the politics of this in a way that I think was probably not anticipated politically by a number of people. We remember hearing on our own airwaves when you had different congressmen saying, well, hold on, is the Republican Party going to be known as anti-IVF, as anti-family planning, as anti-different aspects of it? So be sure to look for these conversations coming up about reproductive rights more broadly.
Yeah, I mean, it's raised all of these issues, and now you're seeing it play out in the states. I mean, people were worried about whether IVF is going to continue to be a legal option for families who want to have kids. And Evan Perez is standing by as well. Evan, I want to go to you and get your reaction to what we're learning so far today.
Well, Jim, I think, look, the social media case, the case that the justices just ruled on 6-3 on a pretty technical way, I think has really, really large implications for this election year. One of the things that happened over the last couple of years, certainly with Republicans claiming that there was censorship and claiming that it was all because of the government, you saw some reluctance on the part of the FBI and some of the national security agencies of the United States trying to interact with social media companies to point out where they saw examples of foreign entities, foreign governments trying to influence the U.S. electorate with disinformation. There was a whole pushback on that whole effort, which of course came about because the Russian government and the Russian intelligence services interfered in the 2016 election and in the 2020 election. So the fact that the justices have essentially, by throwing this lawsuit back and essentially saying that this was these state attorneys general from Missouri and Louisiana had no standing to bring this lawsuit, I think what it does is it certainly allows the FBI to continue its work, which is a very important part of protecting this country, protecting voters from some of the activities of foreign intelligence services that are going to be very active over the next few months. So I think what you're going to hear over the next few days, and certainly you heard it this morning from some of the surrogates of the former president, they're claiming that there's this huge era of censorship that has fallen over the country, which is just not true. But what this ruling does today is it certainly frees up and allows the FBI to do its work, that where they spot interference from foreign entities and foreign countries, they can call the social media companies, point it out to them, and those social media companies can make a decision, a business decision that they can make on whether to remove certain posts on their platforms. Jim.
Right, and for the younger viewers who were a little young back in 2016, I mean, the bipartisan Senate Intelligence Committee report that came out on the 2016 election concluded that the Russians were trying to influence the outcome of the 2016 election.
They were trying to help Donald Trump.
That is exactly right. That is exactly right. And if we're going to have any kind of effort to combat disinformation in this country, I mean, you have to have this kind of situation where, you know, the United States government and other interested parties obviously can go to these social media platforms and say, hey, you've got a lot of, you know, Russian disinformation garbage out there. You might want to take that down. It could hurt the country.
Right, and Jim, let me just say real quick, you know, one of the things that has happened over the last couple of years is a sort of a redefinition of what censorship is. I mean, if you look at the law, obviously censorship comes from the government, right? And one of the things that you see in this ruling here is that, you know, we're talking about social media companies essentially being responsible for managing their platforms. It's a business decision and it's their platforms. And when the FBI says, hey, we think this might be Russian disinformation, that doesn't mean it's government censorship. And you know, I think what I think this ruling helps is for us to sort of refocus on that aspect of how we protect the country and protect voters from that interference.
Again, folks, misinformation refers to the false or misleading information spread without malicious intent, while disinformation is deliberately deceptive and intending to mislead. Both forms are significantly impact the public opinions and voters' behavior, potentially altering election outcomes. By flagging such content, social media companies can help reduce its reach and influence. This effort is part of a broad strategy to maintain trust in a democratic process and to ensure informed decision-making amongst the electorate. Continuous vigilance and collaborating between cybersecurity professionals, government agencies, and social media platforms are essential in counteracting the sophisticated threats that can protect the integrity of our U.S. electorate. Artificial intelligence, again, folks, was a tool and is a tool being used right now, but also artificial intelligence can be used for the good. I have a story here to share with you that I was part of an interview by News 3 to talk about what is real and how AI, artificial intelligence, has been used for the good, but also showing how it's used for the bad. Check out this story coming to us from News 3 here locally.
As the contentious battle for the White House continues, a warning: don't believe everything you see and read online. Misinformation and disinformation are out there. LaToya Silman explains the difference and has expert advice on how you can stop the spread of false information.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize Disability Pride Month.
You just heard the voice of Representative Jennifer Wexton.
She's a Democrat from Virginia, and she can no longer speak, but she's using AI to generate her voice. So she's on the Senate floor, the congressional floor, and she's speaking, but she's using text to speak, but it uses her original voice now because of AI. So that is a good form of technology.
Cybersecurity expert Mac Jackson warns of bad actors who may use that same type of technology to spread lies on the internet.
It's been weaponized now to fool the public, to convince people to make decisions that they wouldn't normally make if they knew the exact truth of it all.
Jackson says you need to be on the lookout for misinformation and disinformation. So what's the difference? Well, misinformation is false information spread non-maliciously, while disinformation is false information deliberately spread to deceive. Regardless of the motive, Jackson says both can be dangerous.
I'm ready. Let's go.
Kamala, you're fired.
With the race for the White House now in a full sprint, Jackson says it's important for everyone to do their own research when they see or read anything on the web.
It's like I tell my students, you always give me a citation. You have to study it. You can't just immediately jump onto something.
Jackson recommends taking the time to confirm the information you're ingesting with more than one reliable source, including News 3 and other major outlets.
So folks, let's get into this ways that we can do to protect ourselves from this type of disinformation or misinformation, right? We want to mitigate how AI-driven misinformation can affect us. So to combat this, there are several things that we can do. First, we can deal with education and awareness. Voter education programs can help the public recognize the critical influence of mis and disinformation. Awareness campaigns can inform voters about common tactics used for misinformation, disinformation campaigns. In other words, folks, just like I tell my students, we have to cite our sources and not just deem anything that we see online and social media as fact and truth. We must see where it came from. Where is the source? And from that source, we'll make sure that source is a credible source, folks. And with that said, we must then spread the message and tell other people that you know, friends, family, and associates, information that you have seen and investigated or vetted to be misinformation or disinformation. Let your family and friends know so we can stop it in its tracks before it spreads and influence people and will influence our elections. Because, folks, if the bad guys, if you would, give them that title, the bad guys or the disinformation group out there, around the world, if they can change public opinion from our elections, they can change public opinion about everything that we do in life, folks. Changing what is real and reality is something that they're making up. So we must educate. Next is the technology, right? AI, the machine-driven language used to generate these type of content. We meaning the cybersecurity community and other businesses and private organizations and government agencies are working on learning tools of AI to detect and flag these sort of disinformation pieces of content. Platforms themselves, social media, can implement algorithms to identify and remove deep fakes, bot accounts, and misleading contents. Collaboration with cybersecurity professionals, of course, and law enforcement is one of our big efforts to handle this type of problems. The third one, and really quickly here, the third one is regulations and policies. Now, we've talked about regulations and policies. A lot of us, we really don't want the government to come in and control what we're doing. However, we must have some sort of policies in place that companies themselves must enforce, or the business industry must enforce before the government comes in and enforce, right? But our government is meant to protect us, so the government and regulatory bodies can establish a fair and a moral regulations. Should I use that word moral? Okay, that was a joke there. Use the word moral when it comes to our government to establish policies and regulations to hold platforms accountable for the spreading of disinformation. Transparency in political advertising. See, that's it right there. Transparency, political advertising, and strict control on how AI is used to generate content can help mitigate the impact of disinformation. This can be very helpful to all of us. Next is collaboration with social media platforms. Social media companies must play a critical role in addressing this disinformation, right? By working together with researchers, fact checkers, and government agencies. Platforms can develop a robust mechanism to identify and protect against disinformation attacks from any source, from our voting or from advertising. As the upcoming presidential election approaches, the use of AI in the spreading of misinformation, disinformation poses a significant challenge to the integrity of the electoral process. Understanding the mechanisms and impact of AI-driven disinformation is critical, for developing effective countermeasures. By combining education, technology, policies, and collaboration, it is possible to mitigate the influence of disinformation and ensure a more informed and fair election. Folks, as we say on the show all the time, cyber criminals and scammers are always trying to look for vulnerabilities, folks, ways to manipulate you and take your money and your personal data. We must remember, #always stay cyber woke. We'll be back after these messages. Hello, folks. This is Mac Jackson Jr. from Vanderson Cyber Group. The problem with businesses today is that they are affected by cyber attacks from around the world, but companies are not sure what to do. Normally, they are reactive instead of proactive. But folks, cyber attacks can affect your bottom line, and it will affect you financially, legally, and your business reputation. Here at Vanderson Cyber Group, we can help you develop a policy by training your employees on what to do if they are involved in a cyber attack and how to mitigate it and fight against it. Folks, we call it here #StayCyberWoke. And that's Vanderson Cyber Group here in Las Vegas and around the world. You can reach me, folks, at VandersonCyberGroup.com or my website, MacJacksonJr.com as well. Here locally, 702-868-0808. Give us a call today, folks. We must fight back. Hey folks, welcome back to Cybersecurity Awareness TV. Thank you for joining me for this episode on misinformation and disinformation for the upcoming elections. And we're talking both parties, folks, are responsible for this, and we must be able to put this message out so everybody has a fair chance to show what they believe in when they go and vote for their candidate. If you wish to find out more information about how to protect your personal information from types of cyber attacks, that's why we're here with Vanderson Cyber Group and my company. You could find out more by going to my website, and that's at MacJacksonJr.com. That's MacJacksonJr.com, or my company's website. That's at VandersonCyberGroup.com. VandersonCyberGroup.com. So what would you find there? Well, folks, you will find information on how to protect yourself, your family, and your business from the fastest growing crimes of the 21st century. Folks, we are also getting involved with other nonprofit organizations dealing with children. That's right, folks, your kids, cyberbullying, and protecting your kids online protection. Folks, the criminals are going after your children. Even if you live in a gated community, they can still penetrate the gates of your community and enter your child's bedroom from their laptop or their smart device, folks. We want to discuss this and protect you and show you how to mitigate these crimes and protect your kids as well. So definitely join me and other nonprofit organizations to protect your children. Find out more by going to my website at MacJacksonJr.com or contacting me. And I'll give you my phone number again. It's 702-868-0808. That's all we have this week, folks, from Cybersecurity Awareness TV. We hope you got a lot out of it. Definitely take our message and spread it to everybody that you know so they can protect themselves from the fastest growing crimes of the 21st century. We'll see you next week, folks. Thank you.